there! So, nowadays we're completely inundated with information. Somebody's always posting something on Facebook, or forwarding a message, or reblogging something on Tumblr without first checking the facts. And if we're going to function in our day-to-day life, we can't really sit around checking the facts all day either. We can't investigate every last single bit of information we come across. We can't fact-check every single video, article, or claim that we see. So it pays to have a well-tuned, tried-and-true BS detector. Looking at the world with a skeptical eye, applying reason and logic, and thinking critically are all tools of the trade for scientists. But as Carl Sagan argued in his book The Demon-Haunted World, these tools aren't just useful for scientists, they're useful for all of us. They apply just as wonderfully and simply to our everyday lives. By having a good BS detector, we can help protect ourselves and others from misinformation and manipulation. So this video will be in 3 parts. In the first part, I'll go over 9 thinking tools developed by Sagan, his principles for solid and scientific reasoning. In the second part, I'll go over some common rhetorical or logical fallacies that mislead people intentionally or unintentionally. And the last part will be a series of 10 questions you can ask about a claim to help ascertain whether or not that claim is BS. So starting off, here's Carl Sagan's 9 principles for scientific thinking. These principles aren't merely to suss out bad arguments, but also constructive ways to improve upon arguments. Number 1, whenever possible, there should be independent verification of the facts. This is of course important because sources for facts can be biased. The more people who have done independent investigation and confirmation of the facts, the more we can be sure that it's true. 2. Encourage substantive debate of the evidence by knowledgeable proponents of all points of view. Debates around evidence are good because they prevent the development of an echo chamber. 3. Arguments from authority carry little weight. Perhaps a better way of saying it is that in science there are no authorities. At most, there are experts. You know that guy on the History Channel who's always like, aliens? Yeah, that guy's allegedly an authority, but he's never correct. 4. Spin more than one hypothesis. If there's something to be explained, think of all the different ways in which it could be explained. Then think of tests by which you might systematically disprove each of the alternatives. What survives, the hypothesis that resists disproof in the Darwinian selection method among multiple working hypotheses, has a much better chance of being the right answer than if you had simply run with the first idea that had caught your fancy. 5. Try not to get overly attached to a hypothesis just because it's yours. It's only a way station in the pursuit of knowledge. Ask yourself why you like the idea. Compare it fairly with the alternatives. See if you can find reasons for rejecting it. If you don't, others will. And then you'll look like an idiot in front of all your peers. And goodness knows we've all felt that enough for a lifetime. At least I have. 6. Quantify. If whatever it is you're explaining has some measure, some numerical quality attached to it, you'll be much better able to discriminate among competing hypotheses. What is vague and qualitative is open to many explanations. Of course there are truths to be sought in the many qualitative issues we are obliged to confront, but finding them is more challenging. 7. If there's a chain of argument, every link of the chain must work, including the premise. A single weak link in the logical chain can doom the entire theory. 8. Occam's razor. This convenient rule of thumb urges us, when faced with 2 hypotheses that explain the data equally well, to choose the simpler. And that is the point. Equally well. Don't be tempted to fall for a simpler sounding solution if it explains less. 9. Always ask whether the hypothesis can, at least in principle, be falsified. Propositions that are untestable or unfalsifiable are not worth much. Consider the grand idea that our universe and everything in it is just an elementary particle, an electron, say, in a much bigger universe. But if we can never acquire information from outside our universe, is not the idea immune to disproof? You must be able to check assertions out. Inveterate skeptics must be given the chance to follow your reasoning, to duplicate your experiments and see if they get the same result. So those are Sagan's 9 principles for scientific reasoning. Let's move on to the rhetorical or logical fallacies. So there are a lot of formal and informal logical fallacies or gaps in logic. However, the following are probably amongst the most common that you'll see misleading people. The first is the ad hominem, which as many of you probably know attacks the person and not the argument. It doesn't respond to the argument at all. Next is the argument from authority. We already touched upon the problems with appealing to authority for an argument. Hey, my dad works at Microsoft and he says they're putting chips in all their products that steal your soul. Oh damn, well if your dad said it, it must be true. Quick side note, this one is something you might see a lot in alternative medicine. They'll frequently have experts touting the effectiveness of their products, but usually those PhDs were under something completely unrelated to any medical or biological research. Next we've got the appeal to anecdotal evidence. Very simple, relying on anecdotes as evidence. Someone believing that their personal experiences reflect the nature of the entire world, not realizing that they are not statistically representative of what goes on in the world. Then there's the appeal to ignorance, where if something is not known to be false, then it must be true. There's no compelling evidence that UFOs aren't visiting Earth. Therefore, extraterrestrials exist. Then there's argument from adverse consequences, which is saying that if the implications of something being true would lead to negative consequences, it must be false. Up next is weasel words, which is the uses of vague, non-specific terminology or references. They don't want you to know about this. Well, some people have gained massive benefits from our products. Who is they? Which people? Next, there's special bleeding, which is where you say that the world must follow a specific rule, except for your case. Usually this is because in order for their argument to work, they have to get past some sort of logical consistency. It is usually the sign of an argument that is logically foundering. Then there's observational selection, selection bias, or counting the hits and forgetting the misses. You focus on evidence that supports your claim while forgetting or ignoring evidence that doesn't. Next is misunderstanding statistics. This is simply not understanding the way statistics work. For example, being surprised that half of all Americans have an IQ that is below the average of 100, when 100 was set as the median score in the first place. Then there's the statistics of small numbers. Imagine a meeting at a group where the host boasts that the group's membership has increased 100% over the last year, except that there was only 2 of them to begin with, so now they've got 2 more and they only have 4 people in their group. Meanwhile, an organization with 1 million members could add 1 million more people, and they would have also grown by 100%. Next is the confusion of correlation and causation. If a friend of yours comes to you telling you about this awesome new Hydra repellent that they bought, and they know it works great, because since they bought it, they haven't seen a single Hydra, well, you should probably stop talking to that person. Similarly is the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy, which again confuses correlation and causation. It's the mistake of assuming something caused something else simply because it came before it chronologically. Then there's the excluded middle, or false dichotomy, assuming that there is no middle ground. You're only allowed to pick one of 2 options. Then there's suppressed evidence, or half-truths. You see this a lot in the debate surrounding climate change. Climate change deniers like to say that there's still debate in the scientific community about global climate change. Well, this might be true, but it's like 99% of the entire scientific community debating that last 1%. The overwhelming scientific consensus is that global climate change is a very real phenomenon. Next is the slippery slope fallacy. That is to say, condemning something because it is loosely related to something that is morally wrong. Example: if we continue to allow legalized abortion, soon we'll be euthanizing people under 18 years of age. And finally, there's the straw man, which is making a dishonest characterization of someone's argument, misrepresenting their argument to make it easier to defeat. Quick digression here, but in this day and age, you're likely to see 2 others. One is Godwin's law, i.e. comparing your opponent to Hitler. If you do this, you automatically lose the argument, and it is a tried and true tactic of strawmanners everywhere. Also, now that the internet has given a lot of conspiracy theorists a vocal platform, you're likely to hear references to drinking the Kool-Aid, or you're likely to be told to wake up, or stop being a sheeple. I would like to propose a corollary to Godwin's law. If you call someone a sheeple, tell them to stop drinking the Kool-Aid, or tell them to wake up, you instantly lose the argument. You are essentially calling them a mindless idiot, and refusing to believe that they may have reasoned out the situation and just come to a different conclusion than you have. You stopped arguing in good faith and resorted instead to calling them an idiot and taking a sort of twisted moral high ground. So yeah, stop doing that. Sorry, rant over. It's just bothers me. Alright, now to the last part of this video. Here's 10 questions you can apply to any dubious claim to help figure out whether or not it's BS. First of all, does the claim align with the way the world usually functions? As an example, are you being offered something extraordinary for little or nothing in return? There's very rarely such a thing as a free lunch. If someone contacts you pretending to be interested in giving you $100,000 if only you'll pay them $500 to help them get across the country, well, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Second, check the reliability of the source of the claim. Imagine looking at a whole bunch of data and there's stuff that's been left out or not mentioned. Well, there's probably bound to be some errors in a lot of reports, but those errors should be sort of random. They shouldn't skew in a direction. There shouldn't be a whole bunch of incorrect claims, but only on one side of the argument, for example. Look for potential bias and conflicts of interest. 3. Have the claims been independently verified by somebody else? Remember, the claims should be testable and repeatable. As mentioned earlier, this is the way science works. 4. Have people tried to disprove the claim? What are the counterarguments? The more people have tried to disprove a claim and it has survived, the more likely it is to be true. There are countless tests of the theory of gravity every day, but you don't hear people going on about it being just a theory. And if there's a hot new item out in the market making really bold claims, but no one seems to have reviewed it or tested it at all yet, you might want to hold on to that money until there's been some investigation into it. 5. Is there a preponderance of evidence? There should be multiple pieces of evidence, not just one. One of the reasons the theory of evolution is so strongly supported is because it has concordance between varying fields of study. It's not backed up by just the fossil record, it's backed up by DNA research and morphology. The more evidence you can find coming from more places, the better off you are. 6. Are the people making the claim providing positive evidence? My inability to disprove your theory is not at all the same thing as you having proved it true. The people making the claim need to have actual positive evidence of their own. The burden of proof is on the one making the claim. If they are simply dismissing evidence that is presented to them, but unable or unwilling to present any evidence of their own, that raises serious questions about the validity of their claim. 7. Do personal beliefs have an impact on the claim being made? Look, people have biases. Everyone. Including me. But science tries to do all it can to account for those biases. That's why there are anonymous peer review boards. That's why there are double-blind studies. Watch out for claims being made that seem to be being pushed by personal agendas. 8. Does the source of the claim often make similar types of claims? Frequently, people making extraordinary claims kind of believe in the whole range of extraordinary things. A Bigfoot hunter might believe in not only Nessie, but hundreds of other cryptids as well, all of which have just as little evidence to support them. Or they might believe in UFOs and alien abduction theories. This points to not necessarily engaging in skepticism by following the actual evidence, but someone who is instead cherry-picking data which supports their favored worldview, and an interest in similar phenomena to support that worldview. 9. Are the individuals making the claim behaving in a scientific manner? Are they testing that claim? Are they looking for alternative explanations for a phenomenon? Are their claims falsifiable? One of the hallmarks of a conspiracy theory is that it is by its nature not falsifiable. Any evidence or criticisms levied against it can always be waved away. Because, yeah, that's just what they want you to think. Or that's a cover-up. That evidence was planted. Someone who is truly behaving in a skeptical and scientific manner is open to reviewing evidence that might contradict or undermine their theory, and not just pushing aside any criticism. Also, scientists are always trying to find alternative explanations for a phenomenon. Pseudoscience often looks for evidence and then fits it within the theory they want to support. Number 10. Does the new theory being proposed account for as much phenomena as the old theory? So in any theory, even the best ones, there might be a few mysteries or unexplained phenomena, and science will try to work that out as it goes. But creating a new theory that might explain that one phenomena at the expense of all the others, that means it isn't as good of a theory. Alright, so I know I said there are 10 questions, but there's actually 12. Number 11. Is there reliance on jargon or obfuscation? If you see something that has a lot of unfamiliar words or phrases, or else uses a lot of scientific sounding terms in a context that seems to be inappropriate, one of the hallmarks of pseudoscience is that, of course, it has scientific trappings. In physics, the term energy only refers to an object's ability to do work, to move something, or to affect a change. A lot of, shall we say, new agey types like to use the term energy to refer to some sort of mystic vitality or life force. Certain people also like to throw around the word quantum a lot, using it in incorrect ways. Sure sounds good though, doesn't it? There's a thing on the internet called the Deepak Chopra quote generator. You should check it out. Think of the technobabble in Star Trek. Finally, number 12, is it too simple? Let's say someone came to you selling a mysterious black box that promised to fix everything wrong with your car. Would you buy it? No, you wouldn't, because you understand that the various things wrong with your car all have various unique causes that need to be addressed individually. Nor would it ever be a good idea to buy a cure-all potion that you can drink that will solve all your health problems. The world is a complex place. There are no cure-alls. If it seems too simple, it probably is. And that, in a nutshell, is the BS detection kit. 9 principles, a handful of logical fallacies, and 12 questions. If you learn them and employ them, you should be well on your way to sussing out and cutting through so much of the BS that pervades our everyday life. We can't all be perfect skeptics all the time, but this is a good first step. Thanks for watching.